Hare Krishna Gita Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, yeah. Hare Krishna Gita Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Uh, Today your voice is a little loud, Prabhuji. Yes, today your voice is little louder than yesterday. Yes, yes, it's good. Thank you. Yesterday we were not able to hear much, but today it's better, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is your speaker nearby you? Are you using laptop, Prabhuji, or computer?
Yeah. No,
or
it is
phone?
laptop is there. It is quite near.
Yeah, it's better, Prabhuji, today. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we'll start the class. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupadamayyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Utapadagammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsa Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Picharine Nirvishesha Shinvadi Pasyate Desatarine Vancha Kalpadrubhasa कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरचे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोप्स गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्तकांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये दीनजन निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे संसारी नाम कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Vijay.
Yeah. So we were discussing chapter number 2 and so we'll continue chapter number 2. So I think we were supposed to read text 24. We are done till 23rd. Just share the document with all of you. Yeah. So please read 24th translation.
Text 25. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king of Bhoja.
You are reading 24th, Mataji?
You said 25th?
Okay. You can read 24th. I think 24th was not done.
Okay, 24th. I consider the demons who are inimical towards the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they are able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garuda, the son of Takshya, Kashyapa, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand.
Thank you. So Uddhava, out of his humility, because of his humility, he considers demons to be better than him, because he thinks at least they are absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord, whereas just see my situation, Lord is not there with me. So although Uddhava was so much absorbed in the Lord, he was feeling like that. Even Nag Muni also speaks the same thing in 7th canto. He also tells that all these demons are better than me because they are always absorbed in them. Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna visyet. Somehow or the other just be absorbed in Krishna. So they suddenly out of humility, not a serious talk. So now we will be entering into the synopsis of all Krishna's pastimes in chapter number 2 and chapter number 3. So we'll go through all Krishna's pastimes in synopsis. If somebody wants to read all pastimes of Krishna in 1 or 2 hours, then you can go through this chapter number 2, chapter number 3. So now Krishna's pastimes in Braja will start. from 25 to 34. So please read 25, 26 and 26 purport.
The personality of Godhead Lord Krishna being prayed to by the Brahma to bring the welfare to the earth was begotten by Vasudev in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king Bhoja. 26. Thereafter his father, being afraid of Kansa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda, and there he lived for 11 years like covered flame with his elder brother Baldev. Purport. There was no necessity of the Lord being dispatched to the house of Nand Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa's determination to kill him as soon as he appeared. It is the business of the Asura to try to kill Supreme Personality of Godhead or to prove by all means that there is no God or that Krishna is an ordinary human being and not God. Lord Krishna is not affected by such determination of men of Kamsa class, but in order to play the role of child, he agreed to be carried by his father to cow pastures of Nand Maharaj because Vasudev was afraid of Kamsa. Nand Maharaj was due to receive him as a child, and Yashoda Maya was also to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord and therefore to fulfill everyone's desire. And he was carried from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his appearance in the prison house of Kamsa. He lived there for 11 years and completed all his fascinating pastimes of childhood, boyhood, adolescence with his elder brother, Lord Baldev. And his first expansion, Vasudev, thought of protecting Krishna from the wrath of Kamsa is a part of transcendental relationship. Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son who needs the protection of father than he does when someone accepts him as the supreme Lord. He is the father of everyone and he protects everyone. But when his devotee takes it for granted that Lord is to be protected by devotee's care, and it is a transcendental joy for the Lord. Thus, when Vasudev, out of fear of Kamsa, carried him to Vrindavan, Lord enjoyed it. Otherwise, he had no fear from Kamsa or anyone else.
Thank you. So now Prabhupada is saying that he had no fear from Kansa or anyone else. Whereas Krishna was speaking to Vasudeva and Devaki. My dear parents, no, it is because of fear of Kansa that I couldn't come to meet all of you almost for 11 years. So, is Prabhupada lying or Krishna is lying? Who is speaking false? This is my question to all of you. Prabhupada is saying no, he had no fear from Kansa. Krishna is saying no, I was very fearful of Kamsa.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Prabhupada is writing here towards the end of the purport that Krishna just enjoyed going to Vrindavan. He had no fear of Kamsa or anyone else. Whereas Krishna speaks to Vasudeva and Devaki, as we had discussed yesterday, that he was very fearful of Kamsa. And that is why he couldn't meet Vasudeva and Devaki for 11 years. Okay, Priya Satyabhama Mataji.
So can we say that since Krishna was exhibiting his pastime, then he often used to get into the mood and he used to forget that he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and that is why he is saying this?
But supreme
because he is imbibed that mood, and in the same mood he is saying that he was afraid of Kamsa.
Okay, that means in that mood he is afraid, otherwise he is not afraid. Huh?
No. He is supreme personality of Godhead. He doesn't need to be afraid of anyone.
But he was saying that I was fearful.
So that's why because he imbibed that mood and he forgot in that mood. Maybe that's why he was saying that.
Okay, he forgot that he was fearful or not fearful. That's why he said, "Oh, I was fearful," like that.
No, he forgot that he used to get so much involved in his Vrindavan pastime that he imbibed that mood so strongly that he was not, he did not remember that he's the supreme personality of God and he doesn't need to be fearful of Kamsa. Because he was in that mood, he was saying this. That's what I'm saying. Because he was in the Vrindavan pastime mood.
So in the Vrindavan master mood, he is fearful of Kansa. That is what you want to say. That is what you are speaking. Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong here, Prabhuji.
Yes, Jagat Mata Sachi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Prabhupada ji is right.
Hmm.
Because ultimately Krishna killed Kansa.
Hmm.
And he's saying here just to convince Devki Mataji, sometimes we may get some excuses ki, oh, I'm not able to do this because of this, and we make excuses. Just that's why Krishna is like that. He's not fearful of Krishna.
No, but when we make excuses, sometimes we speak lie also, na? So is Krishna lying or not lying?
He is not. When we want to convince, he's lying just to convince Devaki.
Okay, he's lying. That means you want to say that supreme truth doesn't speak truth. He lies.
Sometimes
he lies also. Okay. Yes, Ras Raman.
That's why we have to trust more on Guru. What is Prabhupada saying is ultimate.
That means we can't have faith on Krishna. We can have only faith in Guru.
We can have faith on Krishna, but first is Guru.
Okay. My God. A bold declaration. No, Krishna also speaks a lie. Yes, Ras Ramanpu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, both are not lying, neither Prabhupada nor Krishna. Prabhupada is in the role of a devotee, for a pure devotee. He knows the potency of the powerful Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows that Lord Krishna is in no need of getting afraid from anyone. On the other hand, when Krishna is there with Devaki and Vasudev, he was playing the role of a child. He did not want to show himself as the God before them. So this is my understanding.
Okay, so in a role, he was fearful. That is what you want to say.
No. Not exactly fearful. Of course, actually, he wanted to show that I am in the shelter of yours now, Devaki and Vasudev. So you please take care of me.
Okay, that means he was not fearful, but he was speaking that he was fearful, just to encourage Vasudeva and Devaki.
Lord is actually inconceivable. So at several places we read this, we understand this. So he's just playing his pastimes only and nothing else. Not exactly fearful he was from inside, but just through the Yog Maya he was acting in such a manner.
So because of Yog Maya, he was saying that he was fearful, although he was not fearful.
Thank you.
Yes, Rukmini Adisemi Mataji.
Prabhuji, both things are right. Prabhupada is also right. As a Tattva, Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. He is a Kal. He cannot be fearful. In fact, fear. He's a fear. Fear also fear from Krishna. So, and if it turn to rasa is in this like Krishna's potency only, Mahamaya potency. When Krishna has to perform the pastimes in his Leela, so he played a role there that he in this so like in the childhood pastime of Krishna, he forgets everything. Otherwise, if he remembers that he's a supreme personality of Godhead, he would not be able to relish that relation, that rasa, for which actually he appeared in this mortal world. So, it was a desire when he appeared at a nursing day. He had a desire to relish when he was loving Prahlad Maharaj. So he had a desire that what Prahlad Maharaj is relishing, he wanted to relish. So he appeared. So in rasa like this, and one more thing, yes, one of the devotee already spoke about this. When parents are saying something, so we also follow them and say, yes, you are right. That's why I didn't do that. Otherwise, Krishna knows that of course, he's a personality of Godhead. He knows that he's God.
It was the other way around. Vasudeva and Devaki were praying that you are Supreme Person of Godhead, and Krishna was saying that I am fearful. It is not that he wants to support the Vasudeva and Devaki. Oh, yes, you are saying right. He's saying that you are saying wrong. I was fearful of Kansa, that's why I couldn't come. Okay. Nice. Daru Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the purport of 26th verse, it is mentioned that the Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as a subordinate son who needs the protection of a father than does when someone accepts him as a supreme Lord. So when Lord Krishna appeared, so that time also that both of the parents were fearful, seeing that Lord appear as there, and maybe that Kansa can kill him and ask the Lord to come in the normal form, in the two-handed form, as a normal child. Although they knew that they were calling Lord Narayana to come as a son, but still, as parents, they were fearful. So Lord Krishna never wanted to, spoil the mood of their parents, because he enjoys more. So Lord Krishna doesn't come to kill the demons here. He can kill it from the Goloka Dham also. He come on that earth or any other planet just to make his pastime more relishable for the devotees. So he doesn't want to spoil the mood, renting that.
Okay, he didn't want to spoil the mood, that's why he spoke a lie.
Fearful, but to make this pastime more relishable to the devotees, he
Okay. Okay, one last comment by Anilila Mate.
Maybe it's like he wanted to fulfill everyone's desire.
The question is simple. Did he speak a lie or didn't he speak a lie?
He didn't speak a lie.
That means he was fearful.
It cannot be said as fearful as he wanted to fulfill the desire as being the son.
No, but he spoke a lie, na? He was saying that he was fearful. That means he was fearful. Either he was fearful or he was speaking a lie.
He was speaking a lie. Simple.
Very clear. Amran Nadi, bro.
So when Krishna comes on the earth for doing his pastime, so by his sweet will, by the effect of Yoga Maya, he forgets that he's Krishna, he's so much powerful. So I think so he's not telling lies, he was telling
You are really
but by his sweet will, yes, sometimes he really forgot that I am Supreme Personality of Godhead for relishing this pastime.
Okay. You mean to say that he was really fearful because he wanted to relish pastimes.
He may be Prabhuji, but if you want that, I should not be fearful that he cannot be Prabhuji. By his
So you meant to say if he wants, he can speak lie. If he wants, he can be fearful. So you are roaming around. Once I remember, he was Bhakti Madhur Govind Maharaj came to our Calcutta temple. So he was asking some devotee. So he has a question that he was telling about some elephants who were 4 floor high, 5 floor high. So then he was asking one devotee That no. So do you believe in it? So yes or no? If devotee gave a response, and then Maharaj was saying, this means yes, this means no, and this means I'm a politician. Yeah, I'm just making fun. So actually speaking, you are right. So all the devotees are like relatively right. So did Krishna speak a lie? He spoke a lie, but that is not called a lie. So this is what Vishwanath Thakur points out in 10th canto. So like some devotee boldly say, no, he spoke a lie. Some devotee, no, he was not speaking a lie. Actually speaking, he was a lie, he spoke a lie, but that is not considered a lie. Why? Because Satya is inferior to the Supreme Lord. So that's the verse. Satyavitam Satyaparam Trisatyam Sattasya yonim nihitam cha satye Sattasya sattam rite satya netram Sattatmikam tvam saranam prapanna. So we're not going in detail, but Krishna is called Satyasya Sattam. Satya Sattam means he is more truthful than the truth itself. Because the purpose of the truth is to bring happiness to the world. So when we follow moral codes in this world or dharma sastras, then it brings happiness to everyone. But Krishna, when he speaks a lie, that brings a higher happiness to everyone. And that is the reason Krishna is called Satyasya Sattam. He is called truth of the truth. And that is the reason Krishna clearly speaks a lie so many times. When Yashoda told that, did you eat the mud? He ate the mud. And he said, I didn't eat the mud. So he spoke a lie from a moral sense. But then, because his lie gives more happiness to everyone than speaking the truth. So when Lord comes as Maryada Purushottam as Ram, people become happy. But when Lord comes as Leela Purushottam Krishna and he speaks a lie, that gives even a higher happiness to everyone. And that is the reason Krishna is called Satyasya Sattam. So his lie is more superior to so-called truths of this world. So because that lie doesn't cause any harm to anyone. So he's called Satyasya Sattam. So he did speak a lie, but that lie gave happiness to everyone. And it, like some devotees were mentioning, it encouraged Vatsalya Bhav to arise within Vasudeva and Devaki. So nice. Anyway, because I wanted to rally some rasa from all of you. And that is the reason I was pulling everybody's leg, including Amarendra Guru. So, very. Okay. So now we have proper mood to release Krishna's pastimes now. So now somebody can read the next verse and purport, 27.
Yes, Prabhuji. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves, and thus he traveled on the shore of the Jamuna river through gardens densely covered with the trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds. Purport. Nand Maharaj was a landholder for King Kansa, but because by caste he was a Vaishya, a member of the mercantile and agriculture community, he maintained thousands of cows. It is a duty of the Vaishyas to give protection to the cows, just as the Kshatriyas are to give protection to the human beings. Because the Lord was a child, he was put in charge of the calves with his cowherd boy friends. These cowherd boys were great rishis and yogis in their previous births. And after many such pious births, they gained the association of the Lord and could play with him on equal terms. Such cowherd boys never cared to know who Krishna was, but they played with him as a most intimate and lovable friend. They were so fond of the Lord that at night they would only think of the next morning when they would be able to meet the Lord and go together to the forest for cowherding.
These are our cowherd boys. Kritapunna punjaha. They had accumulated so much of pious activities, spiritual piety, that they had an opportunity to play with Krishna. Okay, so we will continue the purport.
Yes, while playing like a small, the forest on the shore of Jamuna are all beautiful gardens full of trees of mango, jackfruit, apples, guava, oranges, grapes, berries, palm fruit, and so many other plants and fragrant flowers. And because the forest was on the bank of Jamuna, naturally there were ducks, cranes, and peacocks on the branches of the trees. All these trees and birds and beasts were pious living entities born in the transcendental abode of Vrindavan just to give pleasure to the Lord and his eternal associates, the cowherd boys. While playing like a small child with his associates, the Lord killed many demons, including Agasur, Bakasur, Pralambasur, and Gardhabasur. Although he appeared at Vrindavan just as a boy, he was actually like the covered flames of a fire. As a small particle of fire can kindle a great fire with fuel, so the Lord killed all these great demons, beginning from his boyhood in the house of Nand Maharaj. The land of Vrindavan, the Lord's childhood playground, still remains today, and anyone who visits these places enjoys the same transcendental bliss, although the Lord is not physically visible to our imperfect eyes. Lord Chaitanya recommended this land of the Lord as identical with the Lord and therefore worshipable by the devotees. This instruction is taken up specially by the followers of Lord Chaitanya, known as the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And because the land is identical with the Lord, devotees like Uddhav and Vidur visited these places 5,000 years ago in order to have direct contact with the Lord, visible or not visible. Thousands of devotees of the Lord are still wandering in these sacred places of Vrindavan, and all of them are preparing themselves to go back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you. So that is how the abode of the Lord is not different from the Lord. Okay, for our answer, there is a quote from Prabhupada directly. Giriraj Prabhu has written, has sent. These are the all glorified pastimes of the Lord, and there is no contradiction in such manifestations. Since Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he was never afraid of Kamsa. But to please his father, he agreed to be so. Achintya Vedaved. So he agreed to be fearful. He was not fearful, but he agreed to be fearful. That is what is. So nice way of resolving contradiction. So there is still so many devotees go to Vrindavan. So like Prabhupada spoke to Giriraj Maharaj once. So he was telling that although we cannot see Krishna in Vrindavan, but we can feel him, feel his presence. And that is the reason thousands of people still go to Vrindavan and stay in Vrindavan. So many people take a vow that we will not step out of Vrindavan for the rest of our life. And still there is a place where Uddhav and Vidura met each other. So that is around 15 minutes from Govindadev temple. Somebody knows the exact place. I went there, but I don't exactly remember the name of the place. It is like a park in between the roads. So there Uddhav and Vidura met. Somebody remembers the place? Somebody visited that place? Vrindavan. All of you are near to Vrindavan. Okay.
In the Govardhan near the Govardhan Parikrama, when we go there, then there is a Uddhav Kund. So might be there.
No, not Uddhav Kund. Uddhav Kund is the place where Uddhav spoke Bhagavatam to the queens of Vrindavan, queens of Dwarka. So that's the Uddhav Kund. But there's a park which is near to Govinda temple. It is in Vrindavan only. It is maybe 10 minutes from Govindadev temple, Radha Govind. So it's like a park in between the roads, surrounded by roads from all the sides. So there Uddhav met with Vidura at that place. Anyway, so I thought maybe all of you would know, so I can also know the exact address. We were just going around and we somehow went to that place accidentally. So that is how Uddhav and Vidura also, this whole samvad happened at that same place. Now 28th, we can just come to 28th.
Translation. When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for the childhood, He was visual only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry, sometimes laugh, just like a child. And while so doing, he would appear like a lion cub. Purport. If anyone wants to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord, then he has to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Braj, like Nanda, Upananda, and other parallel inhabitants. The child may insist on having something, try like anything to get it, disturbing the whole neighborhood. Then immediately after achieving the desired thing, he laughs. Such crying and laughing is enjoyable to the parents and elderly members of the family. So the Lord would simultaneously cry and laugh in this way and merge his devotee parents in the humor of incidental pleasure. These incidents are enjoyable only by the residents of Braj, like Nand Maharaj, and not by the impersonalists, worshippers of Brahman or Paramatma. Sometimes when attacked in the forest by demons, Krishna would appear struck with wonder, but he looked on them like the cub of a lion and killed them. His childhood companions would also be struck with wonder, and when they came back home, they would narrate the story to their parents, and everyone would appreciate the qualities of their Krishna, child Krishna. No, the Krishna. Child Krishna did not belong only to his parents. Nanda and Yashoda, he was the son of all the elderly inhabitants of Vrindavan and the friend of all contemporary boys and girls. Everyone loved Krishna. He was the life and soul of everyone, including the animals, the cows and the cows.
So, these are the pastimes of Krishna. So, the previous verse was talking about the Sakharas. This verse is talking about the Vatsalaras. But any rasa, if somebody wants to generate or have for Krishna, one has to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. So one has to follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas to become a Raganuga Bhakta. Ruchibir Krishna Marsanna Kedasau Raga Uchyate. So to follow in the wake of the devotees of residents of Vrindavan, one has to do Raganuga Bhakti. Now certainly this can be done only when one is at least on the platform of Nishtha. So Nishtha, Sakti, Ruchi, that platform one can do. So, but if one wants to become Vrajavasi, one has to follow the Vrajavasi, the eternal associate of the Lord. So whether knowingly or unknowingly, each soul has that need, subtle need and tendency for all these different types of rasas. So we find in this world also, people want relationships in this world because they are looking for that eternal rasa of the spiritual world. So people want kids so that they can have Vatsalya ras. They want a wife or husband for Madhur ras. They want to be master of some company or some place. And at the same time serve someone who's superior, better. So all these different types of rasas are there. They're need of all the different types of rasas within the living beings. But when we don't get it in the real sense, then we see in this world in a perverted sense. Okay. These are all beautiful translation purports. Yes, please continue.
Hare Krishna. While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. Purport. As he grew to 6 and 7 years old, the Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing grounds. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows, and according to Vedic economics, one is considered to be a rich man by the strength of his store of grains and cows. With only these two things, cows and grain, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things, but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things which are not needed. Lord Krishna is the teacher of human as a teacher of human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community or the Vaishyas should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. According to Simriti regulation, the cow is the mother and the bull the father of the human being. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns for the children just as the bull tills the ground to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. It is mentioned herein that the beautiful cows and bulls were of various checkered colors, red, black, green, yellow, ash, etc. And because of their colors and healthy smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivened.
We have further part of the purport also. Over and above.
Hare Krishna, should I continue?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friends such transcendental pleasures that they would forget all the talks of Brahmananda, which is so praised by the impersonalists. These cowherd boys, as will be explained by Shukadev Goswami, were living entities who had accumulated heaps of pious acts and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person and were hearing his transcendental flute. The Brahma Samhita 5.30 confirms the Lord's blowing his transcendental flute. Venum kvanantam aravinda dalayataksham barhavatam sam asitam buddhasundarangam kandar pakotikamaniam visheshashobham govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud. Although his bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cupids, these are the special features of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is a cowherd boy. Prabhupada is glorifying the necessity of having a cows. So in the Vedic culture, cows, land, and gold. These three things are considered the property. Because especially when the economic collapses or some economical changes happen, then at least these three things always remain valuable. So nowadays also people are saying, okay, gold is like a dead money and this and that. But in Vedic culture, these three things were considered very valuable. Cows, gold, and land. So if it should not happen, but let us say if tomorrow share market collapses or economy collapses, then all the rest of the money may become useless, but these three things will never become useless. That's why Prabhupada would emphasize on all these three things. And also grains and milk are required for one's sustenance. So that's why also they are considered very, very valuable. And then Prabhupada is also talking about Krishna's flute. That when Krishna would play on his transcendental flute, he would attract everyone. Okay. Fine. So we will not go in detail. That we will learn more in the 10th canto. How he will play in flute, then the moving Yamuna would become stagnant. And the stagnant trees would start moving. So different effects. Somehow I didn't get 30th here. If somebody is a Bhagavata, then they can read 30, 31, 32. I
The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoja, Kansa, to kill Krishna. But in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks doll. Text 31. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Galia. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state. Text 32. The Supreme Lord Krishna desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows. And also he wanted to give a lesson to...
just a minute. So some of the teeth came. Yeah.
He wanted to give a lesson to Indra, the king of heaven. Thus he advised his father to perform worship of Go or the pasturing land and the cows with the help of learned Brahmins.
So we had our Kalidrama Lila and now Govardhan Lila. So the most relatively Lila, because for 7 days, 7 nights, all devotees got an opportunity to be with Krishna continuously. Some daily 33, 34.
Hare Krishna. 33rd. O sober Vidura, in Indra, his honor having been insulted, poured water incessantly on Vrindavan, and thus the inhabitants of Vrija, the land of cows, were greatly distressed. But the compassionate Lord Krishna saved them from danger with his pastime umbrella, the Govardhan Hill. Text 34. In the third season of the year, the Lord enjoyed as the central beauty of the assembly of women by attracting them with his pleasing songs in an autumn night brightened by moonshine.
So when Indra poured rains, Krishna lifted Govardhan. So Krishna is called Deva Devo Janardanaha. So demigods, devas, they play with the human beings. But Lord is demigod or demigod, that's why he plays with the demigods also. So sometimes he brings Indra in the picture to lift Govardhan and give an opportunity to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan to be with Krishna for 7 days, 7 nights continuously. Because when Krishna was there with Gopas, he was not there with Gopis. When he was there with Gopis, he was not there with Gopas. But now all Gopas and Gopis were continuously with Krishna. And then Ras Leela. So there's a mention about Ras Leela. So the pastimes will continue in the next chapter also. So we'll continue with the pastimes. So just give me a minute. Saranam Goshnam Manna Tam Pariraham Gopaya Satmayogena Soham Nivithayata. So when Indra lifted this Govardhan hill, so Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill. Before that only, when Indra was pouring rains, then he said, Tasmad Mat Saranam Goshnam Manna Tam Parigraham Gopaya Swatma Yogena Soham Nivithayata. That all these Gopas have taken shelter of me, so it's my duty to protect them because they are my own family members. So that is how Krishna would respect the Gopas. Now, pastimes out of Vrindavan. So last chapter ended with Ras Leela. That is considered the topmost pastime, the last verse of the last chapter. So verse number 1 to 9 will talk about Mathura Leela, about Krishna's education and marriage, how he killed the demons and had a Kurukshetra war. Then Krishna's pastimes in Dwaraka, and it ends with the annihilation of the Yadus. So Dwaraka Leela is mentioned in chapter number 3. Lord's pastimes out of Vrindavan. So now Krishna's education marriages. Please read 1, 2, and 3.
Shri Uddhava said, thereafter, Lord Krishna went to Mathura city with Shri Baldev, and to please their parents, they dragged Kansa, the leader of public enemies, down from his throne and killed him, pulling him along the ground with great strength. Text 2. The Lord learned all the Vedas with their different branches simply by hearing them once from his teacher Snipni Muni, whom he rewarded by bringing back his dead son from the region of Yamloka. Text 3. Attracted by the beauty of the fortune of Rukmani, the daughter of King Bhishmak, many great princes and kings assembled to marry her, but Lord Krishna, stepping over the other hopeful candidates, carried her away as his own share, as the Garud carried away nectar.
Thank you. So, Krishna went to Mathura with Baldev, and then he killed Kansa just by throwing him from the dais on the ground. The way Kamsa killed all the 6 sons of Devaki, Krishna also killed Kamsa in the same way. And nobody was ready to believe that Kamsa has died so easily. That's why Krishna had to drag Kamsa in the whole arena, wrestling arena, to tell everyone that your king has died. Believe in me. Nobody had faith that he has died so easily. And after that, he had a Mundan ceremony in Kurukshetra. How many of you have been to that place where Krishna had a headship ceremony? Kund is there. No. So all of you are from Delhi. You should go there. So there's a Devi temple, and just near to the Devi temple, there's a Kund where Krishna and Balaram had a headship ceremony in Kurukshetra. And then he went to Avanti or Ujjain. So there Krishna heard from Sandipani Muni and all 64 arts which are mentioned in 10th canto. So he learned all the 64 arts just by hearing once. And as Dakshina, Guru Dakshina, he brought back the sons of Sandipani Muni from Yamlok. So that is possible only for Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this pastime is like mentioned by many people. When a crow takes the cup of Srivas Thakur, so that time also Lord Nityananda tells the crow that immediately bring the Asman cup back. And Mother Malini says that don't think I'll glorify you for this activity. Because if you can bring the sons of Sandipani Muni from Yamloka here, then what is a great thing about bringing the Asman cup from a crow? That is not at all very difficult. So she also mentions the same thing. At the end of, or towards the end of Krishna's Leela, even Mother Devaki also says the same thing. Devaki says that you can bring the sons of Sandipani Muni back, then you can bring my sons also back. So I want to see all my 6 sons. So that time then Krishna brings all the 6 sons of Devaki back. So Krishna performs all these pastimes. And then the pastime of Rukmani and Rukmani Haran is one of the realizable pastimes for most of the devotees. Somebody wants to see, people generally see movies for seeing romance. So you can see the original love letter written by Rukmani to Krishna. And she said that if you don't come back in time, I'll give up this body. So all the movies are like copy of this particular pastime. So we'll not go in detail. So there are this pastime also happened. Now other queens, how Krishna won over other queens. Please read 4, 5, 6.
Text 4 translation. By subduing 7 bulls whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hands of Princess Nagnijiti in the open competition to select her bridegroom. Although the Lord was victorious, his competitor asked the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight. Well equipped with weapons, the Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he himself was not hurt. Text 5. Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parijat tree from heaven, just as an ordinary husband would do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wife and pegged as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him. Text 6 translation. Narkasur, the son of Dharitri, the earth, that tried to grasp the whole sky, and for this he was killed by the Lord in a fight. His mother then prayed to the Lord. This led to the return of the kingdom to the son of Narkasur, and thus the Lord entered the house of the demon.
So many other marriages are not mentioned, like marrying with Satyabhama, marrying with, so it's like not exactly in the chronology, because after that Krishna married Jambavanti, then he married Satyabhama. Then Nagnijiti, Satya, and so by the time Krishna married Nagnijiti, already there were 6 wives. So when Krishna had to control the 7 bulls, he expanded into 7 forms. He could have single-handedly controlled all the 7 bulls, but he purposefully expanded 7 forms and controlled them to tell to Nagnijiti, don't worry, I can expand. So you will not have to compromise. It's not that now you are the 7th wife, then okay, Krishna will come to me once in a week. Not like that. So don't worry, I can personally take care of all of you. So that is why he expanded into 7. So he could do many tasks in one shot. And then he went along with Satyabhama, because Satyabhama wanted the whole tree. Narad Muni very cleverly gave one parijata flower to Krishna, and Krishna gave to Rukmini. So Satyabhama became angry. She told that now you gave flower to her, not to me. That means you don't love me. Krishna said, what is your flower? I'll bring whole tree for you. So then he went to Narkasur, defeated Narkasur, took the kundals of Aditi, gave it to Aditi, and then he was taking the parijata tree, only one tree from there. So Krishna was behaving like a hand-picked husband. But there was original hand-picked husband. Original in the sense that really hand-picked husband was Indra. So Indra just got the kundal of Aditi back, which was so costly. And Krishna was just taking one parijata tree, and Sachi told to Indra, how can you take like that? Or other trees may be speaking. And Indra started fighting with Krishna. So then Krishna defeated Indra, and he brought this parijata tree. But of course, Rukmini never said that I want 4 or 5 trees, because she is very submissive. And then he killed this Narkasur, who was his own son. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this particular episode is mentioned. How Lord loves his devotees even more than his own sons. So because Narkasur had created so much trouble for his devotees, all these 16,100 queens of later on who were like imprisoned by Narkasur, Krishna killed his own son Narkasur. So Krishna loves his devotees even more than his own son. And many episodes, many lessons are there. Another one is that association of bad people. So because of bad association, Narkasur turned into from Bhauma to Bhaumasur, Narkasur. So the personal child of Lord Varahadev and Bhudevi turned into demon. So that is how power of association is like very, very strong. So one has to be very careful. Whenever Prabhupada would see that some disciple is behaving in a very heretic way, or it's like, no, out of box. Prabhupada would say that no, this fellow had a bad association. So, as soon as matters a lot. Yes, Ras Ramanpu, Ras Ramakrishna. You're not audible to me somehow.
Just a minute.
Now you're audible.
Please continue in the meanwhile. Am I
Now
audible?
you're audible, yes.
Okay, Prabhuji, I have a doubt. Like you said that Krishna is the original hand-packed husband. So he made queens, Rukmini, Satyabhama, and Jamvanti. For in case of Satyabhama, we can say that he was behaving like a hand-packed husband. But I don't think so. It was the case with Rukmini and Jamvanti. So can you please explain this?
No, even in the case of Rukmani and Jamanti, Krishna would behave exactly as they wanted. In that sense, he was a hand-packed husband. See, hand-packed husband in the sense, it's not a hand-packed husband. He was attracted by that devotion. Because Krishna cannot be attached to the physical beauty of this world. But Krishna, certainly, he becomes subordinate to his devotee when it comes to the devotion of the devotee. So Krishna exactly behaves with a devotee in a way that pleases the devotee. What to say of behaving with all different queens? He was having somebody's open actually. So some devotees can unmute themselves. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So what to say of behaving with his queens? Krishna was even having different time zones in different palaces. In some palace there was a day, in some palace there was a night, in some palace there was a morning time, some palace there was evening time. So that's why in some palace Krishna was going out for court, some palace he was giving charity, some palace he was playing with sword, practicing sword, fighting. Why? How he had different time zone? It was also according to desire of the devotees. Queens wanted, now it should be daytime, daytime. Here night time, here night time. So practically speaking, if somebody becomes Krishna's devotee, he can even control time factor. He can even control time factor. So, in one sense, by becoming subordinate to Krishna, devotee actually becomes more powerful than Krishna. So Prabhupada would say this, Mayavadis want to become God. You become devotee of God, you will control even God. Because God can be controlled only by love. So that is how, don't just try to become God. You try to become greater than God by becoming a devotee. So sometimes Prabhupada would encourage devotees like that. Of course, that is not our mood. But whatever is required for a devotee to serve Krishna, Krishna exactly behaves. So he's really hand-packed husband, no doubt about it. He's Satvatam Pati. He's the husband of all the devotees, and he's really a hand-packed husband. He does exactly what devotees want.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Somehow this is prasad. Please read 7th, 8th, and 9th.
There in the house of Demon, all the princesses kidnapped by Narkasur at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of all distressed. They looked upon him with eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives. All those princesses were locked in different apartments, and the Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions exactly matching each and every princess. He accepted their hands in perfect rituals by his eternal potency. Just to expand himself according to his transcendental features, the Lord begot in each and every one of them 10 offspring with exactly his own qualities.
Yeah, thank you. And also, so not just Krishna killed Narkasur, he married all these different ladies who were imprisoned by Narkasura. So now in the Vedic culture, if a woman is touched by anyone else, nobody will accept her. But Krishna showed that he loves his devotees so much that he doesn't care for the world. She married all the 16,100 queens, and not that, no, it's like, no, he was always telling, oh, just see, nobody would marry you, I married you. He took care of each one of them. He expanded into 16,100 forms, stayed with each of these queens in their palaces, and even he assumed different bodily expansions exactly matching each and every princess. It's something very remarkable. It's there in the text number 8. The Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions exactly matching each and every princess. That means there were differences, slight differences in the features of Krishna when he was married to a different princess. Like some similar phenomena we can find within ISKCON deities also. So I don't know how many devotees I observed. If you go to a temple, Krishna somehow has some features similar to the local people. Deities, I'm talking about deities of ISKCON. Somebody has some this experience?
In Chandigarh, Radharani and Krishna.
Hari. So we couldn't, Amarin, prove this is disturbed, but we could understand the sense. And now,
in Chandigarh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
We can hear. Audible, yes.
Okay. In Chandigarh, Prabhuji, we have seen that Krishna is like a Punjabi, and Radha London is for his blue, Radha his blue eyes, or like foreigner.
Exactly. So I also have a similar experience. Yes, Rukmini Mata is also telling. So we find that at different places. If you go to Assam, Krishna looks like Assami only. He looks like, as if his deities look like Assami. So in this way, Krishna also adopts his features as per the desire of the devotees. Krishna would do exactly with the queens of Dwarka also. And then as the queens want children, so he begot 10 sons and 1 daughter in each and every queen. Now, killing of other demons and Kurukshetra. So please read 10th, 11th and 12th.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Kalyavana, the king of Magadha, and Shalva attacked the city of Mathura. But when the city was encircled by their soldiers, the Lord refrained from killing them personally, just to show the power of his own man. 11. Of kings like Sambara, Dvida, Bana, Mura, Balbala, and many other demons, such as Dantavakra, some of he killed himself, and some he caused to be killed by others, Sri Baladev, etc. Text number 12. Then, O Vidura, the Lord caused all the kings, both the enemies and those on the side of your fighting nephews, to be killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. All those kings were so great and strong that the earth seemed to shake as they traversed the warfield.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is like Dwarka Lila, no? So when Jarasandha and Kalyavan simultaneously attacked Krishna, Krishna ran away from that place, got Kalyavan killed. And many people claim that this is the exact place where Muchukunda was staying. I visited one of those caves among many claimed ones, which is near to Devgarh in South UP and MP, basically MP area. So steep places there where there is always a hardly visible place. So there they claim that Lord got this Kalyavan killed. And then in his Dwarka Leela, he killed Sambar, Dvivida, Ban, Mur, Balwal. Him means both he and Baldev. Dvivida was killed by Baldev. So then Krishna got all of them killed, Krishna and Balram. And then he arranged, after taking Vanprastha, he took a vow not to lift any weapons. So actually, after this killing of so many demons, then Krishna met with the Vrajavasis in Kurukshetra. In Kurukshetra, he promised the Vrajavasis that I'll kill few more demons and slowly I'll return. And he mentioned also whom he's going to kill. He exactly did the same thing. He got all of them killed. And at that time, this Dantavakra and Viduratha, they attacked Mathura, thinking that if we kill Nanda Maharaj and Vrajavasis, then Krishna will become weak and he'll himself die. So on the plea of protecting Nanda Maharaj, he came and killed Dantavakra and Viduratha. Then he crossed Yamuna, came to Vrindavan, stayed with Vrajavasis for 2 months, took all the Vrajavasis back to Godhead. The same way Lord Ram took all the Ayodhyavasis to Saket Dham. And then he expanded in 3 forms. One form went with Vrajavasis back to Godhead. Another entered in the upper cut Leela permanently of Vrindavan. And in the 3rd form, he went to Dwarka. And that time in Dwarka, he took a vow that I will not lift weapons. I am taking Vanprastha. And after that, this whole Kurukshetra war was arranged. So Krishna, that's why didn't lift the weapon in Kurukshetra war, except like lifting the wheel, which cannot be called a weapon. So Krishna was very clever. So he broke the vow and didn't break the vow because he lifted the wheel. So he didn't break the vow. And at the same time, he broke the vow. So super expert. And then he got all these warriors killed. So it is said in Dwapar Yuga, because mode of passion is very prominent and Kshatriyas are in mode of passion. So there were so many warriors that when they would move, earth would shake. So Krishna got all these excess warriors killed. Yeah. Please read 13, 14 and 14 purport.
Text 13. Duryodhana was bereft of his fortune and duration of life because of the intricacy of ill-advised men by Karna, Dushasana and Saubala. When he lay on the ground with his followers, his thighs broken, although he was powerful, the Lord was not happy to see the scene. Text 14. After the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 Akshahinis, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna and Bhima. But what is this? There is still the great strength of the Yadu dynasty, born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden. Purport. It's a wrong theory that due to an increase in population, the world becomes overburdened, and therefore there are wars and other annihilating processes. The earth is never overburdened. The heaviest mountains and oceans on the face of the earth hold more living entities than there are human beings, and they are not overburdened. If a census were taken of all the living beings on the surface of the earth, certainly it would be found that the number of humans is not even 5% of the total number of living beings. If the birth rate of human beings is increasing, then the birth rate of other living beings is increasing proportionately. The birth rate of lower animals, beasts, aquatics and birds, etc., is far greater than that of human beings. There is an adequate arrangement for food for all the living beings all over the earth by the order of the Supreme Lord, and he can arrange more and more if there is actually a disproportionate increase of living beings. Therefore, there is no question of an increase in population causing a burden. The earth became overburdened due to dharmaglani, or irregular discharge of the Lord's desire. The Lord appears on the earth to curb the increase in miscreants. and not to increase in population, as is wrongly put forward by the mundane economist. When Lord Krishna appeared, there had been a sufficient increase in miscreants who had violated the desire of the Lord. The material creation is meant for fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and his desire is that the conditioned souls who are unfit to enter into the kingdom of God have a chance to improve their conditionings for entering. The entire process of cosmic arrangement is intended just to give a chance to the conditioned souls to enter the kingdom of God, and there is an adequate arrangement for their maintenance by the nature of the Lord. Therefore, although there may be a great increase in population on the surface of the earth, if the people are exactly in line with God consciousness and are not miscreants, such a burden on the earth is a source of pleasure for her. There are two kinds of burdens. There is the burden of the beast and the burden of love. The burden of the beast is unbearable, but the burden of love is a source of pleasure. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti describes the burden of love very practically. He says that the burden of the husband on the young wife, the burden of the child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of wealth on the businessman, although actually burdens from the viewpoint of heaviness, are sources of pleasure, and in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. When Lord Krishna referred to the burden of the Yadu dynasty on the earth, he referred to something different than the burden of the beast. The large numbers of family members born in Lord Krishna counted to some millions and were certainly a great increase in the population of the earth. But because all of them were expansions of the Lord himself by his transcendental plenary expansions, they were a source of great pleasure for the earth. When the Lord referred to them in connection with the burden on the earth, he had in mind their imminent disappearance from the earth. All the members of the family of Lord Krishna were incarnations of different demigods, and they were to disappear from the surface of the earth along with the Lord. When he referred to the unbearable heaviness on the surface of the earth along with the Lord,
The earth.
when he referred to the unbearable heaviness on the earth in connection with the Yadu dynasty, he was referring to the burden of their separation. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this inference.
So, when Duryodhana was killed, Krishna was not happy because ultimately everybody is part and parcel of Krishna. So, seeing him in pain, Krishna was not happy, but he had to do it. It's like sometimes father has to really give a tight slap to the child, although he doesn't want. So, it was like that. And Prabhupada is heavily opposing this concept of overpopulation. So, especially in the Western world, we'll see that people want to be so comfortable that they don't want any extra crowd. It's like when stray dogs are in excess, they just get stray dogs killed. You take them and put them in the poison chamber and just kill them. But if you see in the Vedic culture, things are totally different. So if you go to Vrindavan, like in the place currently I'm in my home, here also all the houses, they are like, we put net and iron bars and everything to avoid monkeys. Had it been in Western world, they would kill all the monkeys. But Vedic culture is not like that. Vedic culture is the culture where we accommodate everyone as much as possible. So nowadays they are talking about animal protection and so many other things. But that was always a part of Vedic culture. We know that the earth is not meant only for human beings, it is meant for everyone, all the creatures. Not that to protect ourselves, we'll kill others. Similarly, same thing about overpopulation also. So not to what to say of 500 years ago, even few 100 years ago, just 250 years ago, India had a great population. India had very big population. It got depleted in between. So when this is during 1750, around that time, when Ahmad Shah Abdali attacked Mathura, he killed 1 crore residents of Mathura in 7 days. So it's 1 crore. So even Mathura itself had the population of more than 1 crore. So we can imagine that what was population of the whole of India. So it's not that there is only big population now. So there was big population even before also. But when there is Krishna consciousness, people cooperate together, and earth also supplies a lot of food grains, water, and all the supplies. But when people are not Krishna conscious, they are not cooperative in nature, then even husband and wife cannot stay together. There are so many quarrels and fights. So that's why Bhakti Sati would say the only thing lacking in this world is lack of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada would so many times, even in his morning walk lectures, he would oppose this idea of population control. He said, not required. Make all the people into devotees, and then nature will supply everything. Okay. So you can go to text 15 now. Vasan purport.
When the quarrel among themselves, influenced by intoxication, with their eyes red like copper because of drinking madhu, then only will they disappear, otherwise it will not be possible. On my disappearance, this incident will take place. Purport. Lord and his associates appear and disappear by the will of the Lord. They are not subjected to the laws of material nature. No one was able to kill the family of the Lord, nor there was any possibility of their natural death by the laws of nature. The only means, therefore, their disappearance was a make-show of fight among themselves, as if brawling in intoxication due to drinking. That so-called fighting would also take place by the will of the Lord. Otherwise, there would be no cause for their fighting. Just as Arjun was made to be illusioned by the family affection, and thus Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So the Yadu dynasty was made to be intoxicated by the will of the Lord and nothing more. The devotees and associates of the Lord are completely surrendered souls. Thus, they are transcendental instruments in the hands of the Lord and can be used in any way the Lord desires. The pure devotee also enjoys such pastimes of the Lord because they want to see him happy. Devotees of the Lord never assert the independent individuality. On the contrary, they utilize their individuality in pursuit of the desire of the Lord, and this cooperation of the devotees with the Lord makes a perfect sense of the Lord's pastimes.
So Krishna's contemplation is mentioned in this verse. Krishna was thinking that after Kurukshetra war, that still Yadus are remaining. But if I depart before Yadus depart, then all the Yadus will become very crazy because I have departed from this world. And they're so powerful that they stole even the parliament house of Indra, which is called Sadharma Sabha. So they stole that. So even Yamaraj doesn't have power to end their life. So that is why what I should do in front of me only, I should make them fight with each other because only they can kill each other. Nobody can kill them. And that is possible only in intoxication because they love each other so much. So I have to get them intoxicated. And that is how by Krishna's grace, they all get intoxicated, they kill each other. And they agree to do that because it was Krishna's desire. That is what Prabhupada writes. So like Arjuna, he was bewildered by Krishna's Yogamaya potency. Similarly, Krishna's family members were bewildered by Yogamaya potency. And as far as devotees are concerned, they are ready to do anything for Krishna. So why do we follow 480 principles? Because Krishna wants that. If Krishna wants us to break 480 principles, we will break that also. So that is the main reason why we follow moral codes or we follow 480 principles. Why? Because Krishna likes it. Krishna wants it. So whatever Krishna wants, devotees are ready to do. They don't care for the other side of the consequences. So this is how Krishna disappearance, how Yadu's disappearance, how Yadus are going to disappear. So it's already around 11:26, and there's a different section now. So what we'll do is we'll have a 10 minutes break, and we'll come back around 11:36. Now it's 11:26 now, 11:36. Yes. Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari. So now we'll, yes, can continue. No? So 16 to 23, these are Krishna's other pastimes in Dwarka. Yes, 16, 17, 18.
Okay, Prabhuji. Lord Shri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthir in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burnt by the weapon of the son of Drona. But later he was again protected by the Lord. The Supreme Lord induced the son of Dharma to perform 3 horse sacrifices, and Maharaj Yudhishthir, constantly following Krishna, the personality of Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by his younger brothers.
Thank you. So, further pastimes of Krishna are as follows. Krishna then enthroned Maharaj Yudhishthir to show the example of an ideal administrator. He saved Parikshit Maharaj, who was the last heir of Yadu dynasty. Not sorry, Yadu dynasty, Puru dynasty. That's dynasty of Pandavas. And then he made Yudhishthira Maharaj to perform 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas. And just by doing 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas, earth became more opulent than even heavens. So heavens are so opulent because Indra has performed 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas. That's why he's called Satkritu. One who has performed Yagyas and made a century of them. Satakritu. That means he performed 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas. But Yudhishthira Maharaj, just by performing of 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas, he made earth more prosperous even than the kingdom of heaven. So that is how Lord gives disproportionate result to the devotees. He gives more to the devotees than they deserve. Like many devotees may be having this experience, and after becoming devotees, we get such an eloquence to speak. Now, generally in this world, nobody is ready to dedicate one's life for others. But when we become devotees, so many people say, "No, Prabhu, I am surrendered to you." So that is how Lord gives more opulence to his devotees than they actually deserve. Deserve in the sense that according to piety. Please read 19th.
Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge as initiated by the Sankhya system of philosophy.
So in Dwarka, he was showing by as an example that how one can follow different yoga processes, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, everything. And as a Grasta, he was showing all the different examples.
Text 20.
And now we can decide for you. We can decide and you can read it. So the beautiful sloka which devotees can decide after me. Snigdha smitavalokena Vacha piyusha kalpaya Charitrena navadyena Sriniketena chatmana. Now you can read translation purport.
He was there in his transcendent body, the residence of the goddess of fortune. It is usual, gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character. In the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the roots of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. These two things are not at all contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is in the eternal blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature or his internal potency. One who has a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand this distinction between the external and internal potencies. In Bhagavad Gita, the internal potency is described as the Paraprakriti. In the Vishnu Purana also, the internal potency of Vishnu is described as Parashakti. The Lord is never detached from the association of Parashakti. This Parashakti and her manifestations are described in the Brahma Samhita 5.37 as Anant Chinmay Ras Paritava Avitabhi. The Lord is eternally joyful and cognizant in the taste derived from such transcendental bliss. Negation of variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of the positive transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. Therefore, the Lord's gentleness, his smile, his character, and everything related to him are all transcendental. Such manifestations of the internal potency are the reality, of which the material shadow is only a temporary representation, from which everyone with proper knowledge must be detached.
So, Prabhupada is resolving the contradiction that in the previous verse it was explained he was detached, and in this verse it is written that he was a resident of goddess of fortune. That means he had so much of opulence. So how can he have so much opulence and he was enjoying the opulence and at the same time he is detached? So detachment from matter is necessary, but detachment from spiritual pleasure, detachment from spiritual opulence, that is condemned. So Krishna was actually enjoying his spiritual nature, not the material nature. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, in his one of the you can say articles, yes, one of the articles, he mentions the exact flaw of Eklavya. Why is Eklavya condemned? So we find in our textbooks, ICSE board, CBSE board, Eklavya is glorified so much, and mainly because of the political reasons. Despite that, we will find Krishna personally killed Eklavya. That is again mentioned in Garga Samhita. So what was the reason that Krishna personally killed Eklavya? The reason is that Eklavya was not able to discriminate between the material opulence and the spiritual opulence. So Eklavya unknowingly, or knowingly, whatever you may say, or unknowing of the spiritual principles, he became envious of Arjuna. So Arjuna's expertise in archery was a spiritual opulence, it was not a material opulence. Because Arjuna was going to use the archery in Krishna's service. And because Eklavya was envious of Arjuna, he was condemned. He then knew that this is not a material opulence, it is spiritual opulence. So, using that particular mentality or lessons from that mentality, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati says, that's why people who are envious of their spiritual master, thinking that, or some very exalted souls, thinking, oh, he has so much of name because he is very good singer, I'll become better singer than him. Or if his spiritual master is very expert in speaking good lectures and somebody becomes envious thinking, I'll become better speaker than him so that I will also get followers. Such a mentality is condemned. Because by any amount of expertise, we can never become equal to spiritual master. The reason is, spiritual master's expertise is not material, it is spiritual. Whereas we try to supersede by our material expertise. That's why the mentality to compete with exalted devotees or senior devotees is very much condemned. That is Eklavya mentality. So same thing is explained here. So Krishna's enjoyment of spiritual opulences was not material, it was spiritual. That is why when Krishna is enjoying with the gopis, Krishna is enjoying with the Lakshmis, Krishna is enjoying various opulences, that is not to be condemned, that is supposed to be celebrated, because these are products of Yogamaya potency, not of the Mahamaya potency. So it is only attachment to Mahamaya potency which is condemned, whereas things which are related to spiritual opulence, Yogamaya potency, they are not condemned, they are glorified. So we'll find that is why in the spiritual realm things become just opposite. Like for example, lust in this world is condemned, but love in the spiritual world is celebrated, glorified. Envy in this world is condemned, but envy in the spiritual realm is celebrated. So when gopis become envious of another gopi, one gopi becomes envious of another gopi, because another gopi is getting more attention of Krishna or getting more opportunity to serve Krishna, Krishna becomes pleased by that envy. Generally, envy is so much condemned in this world. But when gopis have the envy within their heart, Krishna enjoys that. And that is the reason gopis don't pray that Krishna take away that envy. They say, let that envy stay with us, because it is pleasing to Krishna. So whatever is pleasing to Krishna, devotees want to have that. So anything which is product of three modes of material nature in this world is condemned. Anything which is product of Samved, Sandhini and Ladini Sakti, that is celebrated, that is glorified. So-called anarthas in this world, when they are products of Samved, Sandhini, Ladini, they become source of pleasure for the living entity and for the Lord also. That's why Krishna's enjoying of opulence is glorified, and that is considered detachment. Was it detachment from matter? Because he's enjoying spiritual opulences. So illusion is condemned, reality is not condemned. Both are not same. That is the reason sometimes devotees become bewildered by certain very exalted souls may look like they are so particular about that everything should be tidy, everything should be clean, everything should be perfect. No, prasadam should be on the right place in the plate. And I personally got a lot of chastisement from so many senior devotees, because in Kolkata Rath Yatra, my service was to serve all these great souls. So even sometimes they won't get a lemon, they were so angry. And I was thinking, why this fellow is so much attached? No, he wants a lemon only. So the point is that for them, because they see things in connection with service to Krishna, so they are like, that is celebrated. I think I can tell the name also. Like many of you may be knowing Bhakti Narsingh Maharaj. So when he came to our temple, it's like it was a morning time. So he told to give me Mahaprasad of Lord. So devotees brought so many items and they brought curry. And Maharaj said, where is dal? And devotee said that, no, Maharaj, this is kadhi, this is like, no, alternative to dal, and we have kadhi. And Maharaj said, I want dal, where is dal? And one devotee, he ran back to the DT kitchen and he was searching. And Calcutta is like going down 5 floors, again, climbing two more floors. It's practically going from Bhulok to Sarvaloka, not Sarvaloka to Brahmaloka, 7 stairs. And you are running up and down. And then he was searching this kitchen and that kitchen. And ultimately he fainted. He couldn't find the dal. And at the end, Maharaj was telling me that I don't mind if I don't get dal, but there should be dal for Radha Govind. Prabhupada had created some standard that for DT there has to be dal every day. So why you people, you are making curry and you are like reducing dal from the menu of Krishna? And it's later on, that time it was like we were new devotees, new brahmacharis. Later on, after many years, we came to know that Maharaj is very austere. Sometimes for months together, he just eats vegetables. So he was very worried about the standard of the temple. He was not very worried about what he's getting. So many times, those who are actually, not just because of the position which they have, but those who are actually very exalted souls. So they are more worried about Krishna service, that is spiritual worthiness or spiritual service. It has nothing to do with the material sense gratification. So such a thing, if new people come many times, what happens is, it happens with new devotees. So they would serve them very nicely, and then they would expect that my subordinates would serve me in a similar way. Why? Because I have served my superiors very nicely. And they start feeling, oh, hamara bhi number kabhi aayega, we'll also become very exalted. So that is considered copying the senior personalities. That means you are trying to enjoy sense gratification, whereas they are worried about the service of the Lord. So such a thing should not be copied. That is considered, that's condemned. So as we progress in spirituality, we have to learn the differences between the material sense gratification and spiritual opulences. So that is different. Otherwise, what happens is, either we start criticizing the very exalted souls, thinking that they are doing sense gratification. That is one extreme. Or the other extreme is that we ourselves will fully indulge in sense gratification and say that is all right. So these are two extremes which we may go in. So that is why we have to learn to discriminate between what is matter and what is spirit. Be detached from matter, be attached to spirit. Okay, so we'll go to 21.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can I read Sanskrit also?
Yeah.
Should
So
I?
actually, we wanted to recite this verse.
Okay. Imam lokam amam cheva ramayam sutaram vyadun reme kshana daya datta kshana stri kshana saurida. Translation. The Lord enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in other worlds, higher planets, specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty, at leisure hours offered by night. He enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with woman, purport. The Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees, although he is the personality of Godhead and is transcendental to all material attachment. He nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engage in his service in the heavenly planets as powerful delegated directors in the management of all material activities. He displayed a special attachment for his family members, the Yadus, as well as for his 16,000 wives, who had the opportunity to meet him in the leisure hours of night. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestations of his internal potency, of which the external potency is only a shadow representation. In the Skanda Purana Prabhasa Khanda, in the topics between Lord Shiva and Gauri, the manifestation of his internal potencies is confirmed. There is mention of the Lord's meeting with 16,000 cowherd themselves. Although he is the Hamsa, transcendental supersoul and maintainer of all living entities, the 16,000 cowherd themselves are a display of 16 varieties of internal potencies. This will be more elaborately explained in the 10th canto. It is said there that Lord Krishna is just like the moon, and the themselves part of his internal potencies are like the stars around the moon.
Yeah, thank you. So this is about explanation of the Ras Leela of the Lord. And also, Prabhupada is again talking about Krishna's enjoyment is enjoyment of internal potency, not of the external potency. Yogamaya, not of the Mahamaya. So same theme is being continued. Please is 22nd translation purport.
Text 22. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Purport. Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as a universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the word samajayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities while present on the earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental cowherd themselves. But the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmani and other goddesses of fortune, as described in the Brahma Samhita 5.29, Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrahma Sevayama Manam.
So in this way, Lord remained in household life for a long, long time. So as Prabhupada said, is to teach lesson to other people how to stay as an ideal householder. Apart from that, the only work of the Lord is to reciprocate with devotees. Lord has no other work to do. Like for all of us, we have to work hard because we have a lot of needs, a lot of desires to be fulfilled. But as far as Krishna is concerned, he is Atmaram. He is fully satisfied. Because he has everything and there's nothing which exists outside him. So there are so many things existing outside us, that is why we need them, we want them, and we work hard to get them. But as far as Krishna is concerned, everything is his only. He doesn't need anything. So then what remains for him to do? The only thing which remains for him to do is to reciprocate with the love of his devotees. That's why there are devotees who want Krishna to be like his husband, their husband. Krishna becomes a householder. Some devotees want to be Krishna's girlfriends. Krishna becomes their boyfriend. So Krishna does exactly what devotees want. That's why many times people say, "Arey, how can he be a god who dances with so many women, especially with the wives of so many men? How can he do that?" Rather, it should be other way around. If Krishna cannot fulfill the desire of his devotees, then how can he be called a god? God means who can do anything, who can fulfill anyone's desire to any extent. So if Krishna cannot dance with his devotees, he cannot dance with the damsels of Vrindavan, then he is not called a god. It is other way around. So rather it is a proof that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he can fulfill anyone's desires, any type of desires. So anybody who has a desire to serve Krishna in any way, in any rasa, Krishna fulfills all of them. And that is the proof that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are all important verses. We'll talk next one. Devadhineshu kameshu Devadhinaha swayam puman
Devadinah swayam puman
Ko visrambeta yogena
Ko vishrambheta yogena
Yogeshwaram anuvrataha.
Yogeshwara anuvrata.
Please read translation in the purport.
Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but One who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti or Devi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. The Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. That is, with any sense he can perform the activities of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 18.55 says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasya chasmi tattvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord.
Yeah, thank you. So this particular purport, Prabhupada is talking about how only devotees can understand, because generally people try to put others according to their level of understanding. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would speak very graphic short story in this regard. So he would tell the story of a Muslim person who was passing from a street, and when he was passing through the street, he had a fragrant smell of ripened jackfruit. So he smelled the ripened jackfruit, and then he went to steal the jackfruit. So he went there, took the jackfruit, and while he was trying to open the jackfruit from his by his hands and eat it, so then there is a particular type of gum which comes from the jackfruit tree. So while eating the jackfruit, what had happened, his whole beard, like Muslims have the whole beard, so that his whole beard got stuck up. And then he was trying to get rid of that jackfruit. So he enjoyed jackfruit, but he was trying to get rid of that. But he was not able to get rid of that. So he was very fearful that no, I don't have any jackfruit tree in my house. People will understand that I have stolen. So because of that, he had to save the beard. On next day, when he was moving across the road, then he saw one British policeman coming from the other side. And this British policeman was also clean shaved. So this old Muslim person, he started telling to this British policeman, "Oh, very nice. You also stole the jackfruit like me." So what he was thinking is that because I am clean shaven because of eating jackfruit, this fellow also must have eaten the jackfruit by stealing. The same thing is true here also. So because people in general, they are after sense enjoyment, when they see Krishna's activity, they think that this is also activity of sense enjoyment. Because they have no clue that there is something called spiritual senses and spiritual sense gratification, and there is something called Yogamaya potency. They have no understanding of that. So who can understand that? Only who is a devotee. So that's why only devotee can understand the activities of Krishna. Others cannot understand the activities of Krishna. So the most celebrated activities of Krishna are the most confusing activities for the rest of the world. Now 24-28 is the annihilation of Yadus. Please use 24th translation purpose.
Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of Yadu and Bhoj dynasties. Thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Purport. The associates of the Lord who were playing the part of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoj dynasties were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu and Bhoj, when the Lord himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any act of material nature, were subjected to reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should, therefore, take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feast of a divinity of the Lord.
Thank you. So, this verse explains, Prabhupada explains how sages were made angry by the Yadavas. So, Sama was dressed like a pregnant woman, and then all other princes of Krishna, they went to the sages and they told. So, this girl is very shy. She doesn't know whether the child is a boy or a girl. So if they say boy, they are wrong. If they say girl, they are wrong, and they will laugh. And if they say that we don't know, then we can laugh at them and say that you are great sages and you don't know. So sages become very angry and cursed that no, a club will be born which will destroy the entire Yadu dynasty. And then the whole club came out. So now, but Prabhupada is saying this is definitely arrangement of Yoga Maya, because those who are pure devotees, they can't enjoy by insulting others. Enjoying by insulting others comes in mode of ignorance. So you'll find some people are super expert in criticizing others. It's like 10 people are there, they will criticize everyone, and then they would show their bravery. So such tendency actually is in mode of ignorance. Because those who are gentlemanly, manly people, they don't want to enjoy by offending others or making fun of others. So certainly, so it was not under the influence of Mahamaya or mode of ignorance, because they were children of Krishna. That is perfection of life. So they can't do that. At the same time, when it comes to great sages, they can't be angry with children of Krishna. Generally, with ordinary children also, sages don't, saintly people don't feel offended. Because women, children, and old people, they are not supposed to be punished as per Vedic culture. So that's a Vedic culture. So they are not punished. Because they are more on level of mind. So they can anytime shout and at the same time again be peaceful. So that's why they are generally not punished. So what to say of Krishna's children being punished? So this shows that it is definitely Krishna's arrangement. It is because of Yogamaya potency. It's 25th and 26th. Please read 25th translation, 26th translation and purport.
25th translation. A few months passed, and then, bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andak, who were incarnation of demigods, went to Prabhas, while those who were eternal associate of Lord did not leave but remain in Dwarka.
So just a minute. This is very important verse, this 25th. Because this is a clear indication which Vishwanath Thakur also points out, that it is demigod counterparts within the bodies of Yadus who went to Pravas Chitra, whereas the eternal associates of the Lord, they stayed back and participated in the eternal Leela of the Lord. They were participating in a uppercut Leela of the Lord. Whereas the demigod counterparts went and they had participated in the motion Leela. So there's a reference for that. Yes. Please continue 26th.
26th translation. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respect to the forefathers, demigods, and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave cow to the Brahmins in royal charity. Purport. Among the devotee of the Lord, there are several divisions, mainly Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas. The Nitya Siddha devotee never fall down to the region of material atmosphere, even though they sometimes come onto the material plane to execute the mission of the Lord. The sadhana siddha devotee are chosen from the conditioned soul. Out of the sadhana devotee, there are mixed and pure devotee. The mixed devotee are sometimes enthusiastic about eruditive activity and are habituated to philosophical speculations. The pure devotees are free from all this mixture and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. Pure devotees of the Lord are not enthusiastic to put aside their service to the Lord in order to go visit holy places of pilgrimage. A great devotee of the Lord in modern times, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, has sung like this. To visit holy place of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of the mind because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. For pure devotees of the Lord who are completely satisfied with the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage. But those who are not so advanced have prescribed duty of visiting pilgrimage site and regularly performing the rituals. The part of the princely order of the Yadu dynasty who went to Prabhas performed all duty to be done in place of pilgrimage and offered their pious action to their forefathers and others. As a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, other living entity, people in general, forefather, etc., for various contributions received from them. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to the Prabhas pilgrimage site performed their duty by distributing land, gold, and well nourished cows in royal charity as described in following verse.
So they went to Pravas Chitra, and Prabhupada points out, now suddenly they were demigod counterparts. So Prabhupada writes about that two types of personalities. One is Nitya Siddha, another is Sadhana Siddha. Nitya Siddhas are the eternal associates of the Lord who come along with the Lord to perform pastimes, and Sadhana Siddhas are the one who get perfection by their practice of Krishna consciousness. Among them also there are two categories. One is mixed devotee, another is pure devotee. So they are called Pradhani Bhut Bhaktas and Suddha Bhaktas. Those are mixed devotees are called Pradhani Bhut Bhaktas. So Pradhani Bhut Bhakta, their bhakti is mixed with karma and jnana. Whereas those who are Suddha Bhaktas, pure devotees, their bhakti is not mixed. So currently in our Bhakti Shastri classes, we are taking these things in detail about difference between Pradhani Bhut Bhaktas, Gaura Bhut Bhaktas and Suddha Bhaktas. So pure devotee, they don't care for rituals. They may do it as a duty for promoting Krishna consciousness, but they don't feel it to be necessary. Like Bharat Maharaj, when he was a king, that time he was performing the Karmakandi Yagyas, understanding that these demigods are part and parcel of Krishna. And in this way, he was making spiritual advancement. Because that is a duty of a king. As a king, he had to do that, just to set an example for those who are not devotees. So whenever there was Indra Swaha, he would remember this is Krishna's hand. Chandra Swaha, it is Krishna's mind. So in this way, I am serving Krishna by offering these oblations to fire on the name of demigods. So then that is pure devotion service only. But when somebody has a tendency, Krishna is for pure devotion service. अभी बहुत बीमारी हो रही है, let me offer water to Suradev. थोड़ा separate कर लेते हैं ना, because Suradev means quickly heal me please and cure my disease. So although I want Krishna, but I want something separately also. So then that is called mixed devotion service. Because for devotees, anything happens, they just cry for Krishna. That's all, nothing else. And that's why there's a verse in 11th canto, Uddhav Gita. Tavat kurvani kurvita na nirvidyete yavata mat katha shravana dova shraddha yavan na jayate. So Krishna tells to Uddhava that one should continue performing one's varnasam duties very properly till one gets shraddha for Shravanam and Kirtanam. If one gets enough faith in Shravanam Kirtanam, just by doing Shravanam Kirtanam, my entire life is perfect, he doesn't have to perform other Vedic rituals. Now he may do it just to set an example for others, but he knows that is not necessary, that is not required. Like Narsingdev told Prahlad Maharaj to do the last rites as well as Shraddha ceremony for Hiranyakasipu. After speaking that you are what to say of your father, father's father, father's father, no, your 21 generations are purified just because you are a pure devotee. So he told that just to set an example for others. But Prahlad Maharaj clearly knew that no, this is not required. My father is already delivered. So that's why devotees don't depend. They don't depend on the karmakanda activities for the perfection of life. So in this way, Prabhupada is pointing out at that fact. Please read 27th.
The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin seeds, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. All these charities were meant for the Brahmanas. Those lives were devoted entirely to the welfare of society, both spiritually and materially. The Brahmanas were not giving their services as paid servants, but the society provided them with all necessities. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls. The Brahmanas therefore had no economic problems. The Kshatriya kings and rich mercantile men would provide them with all that they needed. And in exchange, the Brahmanas were completely devoted to the elevation of society. That was a way of social cooperation between the different castes. When the Brahman caste or caste gradually became easygoing, being fed by the society, although they had no Brahmical qualification, they degraded themselves into Brahma Bandhus or disqualified Brahmanas, and thus other members of the society also gradually fell down from the social standard of progressive life. As described in Bhagavad Gita, the caste system is the creation of the Lord and is arranged according to the quality of a work rendered to society and not in terms of birthright as falsely claimed in the present degraded society.
What is that verse from Bhagavad Gita?
Chaturvarnam maya srishtam, Prabhuji.
You can repeat the whole verse.
Chaturvarnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. आगे कहा बोले प्रभुजी.
तस्य कर्तारम अपीमाम विधिया कर्तारम अव्ययम. So Chaturvarna Maya system, Guna Karma Vivaksa. According to Guna and Karma, Krishna personally has divided the entire society into these 4 Varna and 4 ashramas. So those who are prominently in mode of goodness and secondary in mode of passion and ignorance, they are called Brahmanas. Those who are prominently in mode of passion and goodness is secondary are called Kshatriyas. Those who are having a mode of passion as the primary and mode of ignorance as the secondary. They are called Vaisyas. And those who have mode of ignorance as the primary and mode of passion as the secondary are called Sudras. So among them, only Sudras are the one who are called salaried classes. Those who get salary. So they have to accept a master. Other three don't accept a master. And what do you say accepting the master? Brahmanas even don't charge. They give things free of cost. And things which are most costly today were the cheapest thing in the Vedic culture. They were given free of cost. So three things were there which were free of cost in the Vedic culture. They are most costly today. First is education, which was given by Brahmanas free of cost. Education is so costly today that no parents practically become bankrupt while teaching the children. Second is, which is very costly today, is medicine. You go to any hospital, people come out like beggars. That was given free of cost in the Vedic culture by Brahmanas again. And third one was judiciary or judgment. That was given free of cost by Kshatriyas, and one practically, generations after generations they die and the case is not resolved. Entire money goes in the pocket of advocates. So these three were given free of cost. And if these three are given free of cost, any grahastha can live with bare necessities of life and focus on spiritual life. So if anybody wants to make a community at any places, just make these three things free. Of course, judiciary cannot be made because that is under Indian law. But at least if somebody can make education and medicine free in any community, grahasthas can very peacefully live, and it's like, they can have a Krishna conscious life. They don't have to struggle so much for maintaining themselves. And because these two things were given free of cost by Brahmanas, entire society would also maintain them. They would maintain them. But what happened in due course of time is Brahmanas were not doing their duties properly, and also systematically Vedic education was ended in India. So Brahmanas in one sense became useless. So there was corruption on their side also, and then the education system was also broken. Similarly, the Vedic system, which is Ayurveda, yoga, all these things, they were also belittled in comparison to the modern medicine. And that is how Brahmanas lost their importance. Otherwise, Brahmanas would give these two things at the same time. They would give also spiritual vision to the society. So that is not there currently. So if Brahmanas were maintained, then they were free to give spiritual vision to everyone, because that is their nature. They are not greedy. Those were actually Brahmanas, not just by birth, but by actually the qualification. So I remember one of our brahmacharis in Calcutta, when he changed his ashram. So then he was thinking, I will live life of a Brahmana. So he learned the Pancharatriki Vidhi very nicely, doing yagyas and everything, got trained in Mayapur. So he went for the marriages, and some of the places he was not able to even get enough charity to meet his conveyance charges also. So he went to one place, he told that now he got charity of 2,000 rupees. So they gave him charity of 2,000 rupees for conducting the entire marriage ceremony. And you are telling Prabhu, in that ceremony, one plate of prasadam offered to the guest was 3,000 rupees. And he was a devotee. So what happens is, when society doesn't maintain the Brahmanas, then Brahmanas have to do something else for their maintenance. So then now he's like now doing some other courses and continuing his grahastha life. So, but when the society, especially the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas class of people who have enough resources, when they give charity to the Brahmanas, Brahmanas are not worried about their maintenance. and they work for the welfare of the entire society by giving free education, free medicine, and also the spiritual vision, which is necessary for the entire society. So that's what Prabhupada is talking about. Yeah. Now, please read 28th translation on the purport.
Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. Purport: the behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhasa was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization: protecting the cows, maintaining the Brahminical culture, and above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world, where there is no birth, no death, no disease, and no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material achievement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuffs which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuff offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuffs both to the human being and to other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessity of life, are supplied for mankind by the Lord. And such foodstuffs cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in a laboratory or factory established by human effort. The intelligent class of men are called Brahmanas, and those who have realized the absolute truth in his supreme personal feature are called Vaishnavas. But both of them accept foodstuffs which are the remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yajna Purusha Vishnu. In Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuffs as the remnants of sacrifice, it is freed from all sinful reactions. And one who cooks foodstuffs, okay. And one who cooks foodstuffs for maintenance of his body takes in all kinds of sins which lead only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by the Yadus at the Prabhas pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmanas, there were all offered to the personality of Godhead Vishnu. The Yadus offered their sincere obeisance by touching their head to the ground. The Yadus or any entire enlightened family in Vedic culture are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of social orders. The word rasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in mode of goodness and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruit, flowers, leaves, and liquids, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criteria for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized person, and their being cursed by the Brahmana sages was only by the desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas.
Hari Hari. So Prabhupada is mentioning about the necessity of prasadam, that those who cook to just enjoy, they're verily eating sin. So devotees take only prasad, and Brahmanas, they love prasad. Brahman bhojan priya. So that's why Brahmanas were given sufficient Mahaprasad in the Pravas Chitra. Okay. And Prabhupada talks about the necessity of avoiding Vaishnava paths. So this ends our chapter number 3. And now we can move to chapter number 4 also. So we are lagging behind. Now we'll be on track. Okay. So this chapter number 4 is Vidura approaching Mitra Muni. So his what happens, we like ending of his meeting with Uddhav and his meeting of Mitra Rishi that is mentioned. So first 3 verses they talk about disappearance of Yadus. Because what happened with Prabhasitra is mentioned, but disappearance of Yadus is not mentioned till now. Then how Krishna met with Uddhav and Mitra Rishi is mentioned in 4 to 13. Verse number 14 to 18 discusses how Uddhava became overwhelmed and he glorified and prayed to the Lord. 19 to 22 are hearing from the Lord and how Uddhava started for Bhadraka as per instructed by Krishna. 27 to 30, 23 to 27 is Vidura sorting spiritual knowledge from Uddhava. 28 to 32 is Uddhava's special role after disappearance of the Lord. And 30 to 36 is Vidura's enlightenment by Uddhava and his further journey in which he finally meets Mitra Rishi. Rukmini Harisanyamata.
Prabhuji, I just got disconnected from the connectivity of the chapters. Can you please tell that how chapter moved like this? Krishna pastimes in Vrindavan, then out of Vrindavan, now this chapter, connectivity.
Okay. So initially we find that Vidura's in the beginning we will find Vidura is chastised heavily by Duryodhan. He goes for pilgrimage, he goes everywhere. Finally, he comes to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, he meets Uddhava. And then he asks questions to Uddhava regarding well-being of Krishna and Krishna's family members. And then Uddhava goes in ecstasy, comes out of ecstasy, and he starts narrating Krishna's pastimes. First Vrindavan pastimes, then Dwaraka pastimes, and then his how Yadu dynasty is annihilated. So those pastimes are mentioned. So the annihilation of Yadu dynasty is going to continue now. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So the disappearance of Yadu dynasty is mentioned now. So please read the last 3 verses of disappearance of Yadu dynasty.
Chapter 4, text 1. Therefore, all of them, the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious and bereft of knowledge. They touched the crores of each other's hearts with harsh words. Text 2. As by the friction of bamboos destruction takes place, so also at sunset, by the interaction of the falls of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. Text 3. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree.
So all these descendants of Vishnu, because Kshatriyas, they are allowed sometimes to drink wine, sometimes to gamble, and sometimes, so all the four legged principles they can break at some time, and that is not considered breaking. So sometimes our devotees become very bewildered. How can that be allowed? So such tendencies are there, especially in the Kshatriyas, because they are filled with mode of passion. But when these four things are purified, then they are allowed to drink or eat, like break four legs. So when are they allowed? So as far as meat eating is concerned, when they go out to hunt, especially they hunt the wild animals which may create trouble for the sages, and also to practice fighting so that they can fight with the enemies. So they go and kill the animals there, and those animals are offered in the yagyas. And after they're offered in the yagyas, then such remnants of the yagyas, which is prohibited in Kali Yuga, Aswamad Medam Gavalandam Sannasam Palipatrikam, Devarana Sutupati Kalo Panchavivarjit. These five things are prohibited. So they were allowed. So then they would offer them to the yagyas, and then they would eat it. That will not be considered sinful. So that is purified. So that's meat eating. Same thing about gambling. Whenever another Kshatriya would challenge a Kshatriya for gambling, which is display of one's luck and one's political intelligence. So that's why they had to accept that challenge, and then they would gamble. So that was allowed. Now you may say that no, something like illicit sex. No, illicit sex is not illicit for them. In certain conditions, when a woman approaches a Kshatriya and she doesn't have an impeachable character, means she is not a low class woman. So then Kshatriyas are instructed not to ignore. They have to accept such women. Because especially in the places where a lot of people would take to renounce order of life after going to the, because all the three classes, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, would go in Gurukul, then excess of the female population were protected by Kshatriyas. So they would have multi-marriages and they would accept. So then they have to accept. So there are third one. And fourth is about intoxication. So whenever there are ceremonies like some big yagyas or offering to the ancestors, then by the permission of the Brahmanas, which is written here, then they are allowed to consume some liquor. So they drank the liquor, and that is not considered, that's considered actually like prasad only. So they drank it, they became delirious, bereft of knowledge, and then they started killing each other. And like there is a friction between the bamboos without any reason, just because of the wind, there is friction in the bamboo and there is a fire. And the entire bamboo forest is destroyed. Similarly, without any reason, because they were delirious because of wine or liquor, they took the strong grasses, which were as hard as iron rods, and they start killing each other. And Krishna and Balram said, our work is done. So Balram entered the ocean, he meditated and went to back to Godhead. And Krishna, he sat under a Vatvraksha. We will go further. We'll find that how this Krishna, when he does anything, it has a meaning. So why he was sitting under Vatvraksha will also be explained now. So he just drank the water of Deva Saraswati in Pravas Kshetra and was peacefully sitting under a banyan tree. Our job is done. Okay. Rukmini Hariseni Mataji.
Prabhuji, how can one be, can become delirious after having remnants of prasad?
Okay. So when you take a certain prasad, it will have effect also. Like let me ask you another question. If you take lot of chili prasad, Do you feel sweat on the face? That is also prasad, na? How can somebody feel like that? It is similar to that. So that's why whenever we take prasad, it has effect. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given 3-point formula for any devotee to peacefully progress in his spiritual life very steadily. First one is that one should do one's sadhana very diligently, do one's sadhana very nicely, very diligently. Second point is do one's varnasana duties very properly. Because if one doesn't balance in varnasana duties, it will boomerang. If you don't take care of your job, boss will kick you out, or we will have a loss in our business. If we give only time to those things, we don't give time to spiritual practices will go down. If we give time to those two things, we don't give time to family members. Then same family members will create trouble for you later on. You don't take care of children, they will create trouble in the old age. Now you are attending programs, you are neglecting us. Now in the old age, we will neglect you. So then the old age will become very miserable. So we have to take care of family members. So this is the second point. And the third one is cultivate mode of goodness. And the only example which he gives, he says similarly, you have to cultivate mode of goodness. The example which he gives is take prasad with ingredients cooked in mode of goodness. Ingredients in mode of goodness. Because the ingredients also affect us. So it doesn't affect. So although it was liquor prasad, not prasad, but it had an effect. So they become delirious.
Thank you, Ritsi.
So this has a purport also. Please read the purport.
All the above mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord, because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after he had finished his mission of descent. They were all his sons and grandsons, and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord himself. Svatma Mayaya. The Lord's family members were either incarnation of his plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets, and thus, before his departure, he separated them by his internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective boards, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhasa, where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes, so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word Anujasata, indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord, is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of his external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of his internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bhojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricide war. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on these incidents as magical performances.
So one should not think that, oh, they drank and they fought and they died. It's not like that. It is certainly the arrangement of the Lord. It was Krishna's arrangement. And now Lord's meeting with Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi is described from 4 to 13. Yes, please read 4th translation purport, and then 5th one also, 5th translation.
Lord is the vanquisher of the distress of the one who is surrendered unto him. Thus he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrikashram. Purport. While at Dwarka, Uddhava was warned to avoid the distress which were to follow the disappearance of the Lord and the destruction of Yadu dynasty. He was advised to proceed to Badrik Ashram because he could associate with the devotees of Nar Narayan and their association of devotional service. He could increase his eagerness for chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. Text 5. Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear the separation from the lotus feet of the master.
So Krishna wanted Uddhava to do one more work, that is to go to Bhadraka ashram and convey his knowledge of Uddhav Gita to the sages of Bhadraka ashram. Because Krishna went everywhere, but he didn't get an opportunity to go to Bhadraka ashram. And Uddhava would be feeling very distressed. Everybody has gone back to Godhead, I am left here only. So that's why Krishna gave him instruction, because when one performs service, one doesn't feel that separation. Like Prabhupada would say that I was never separate from my spiritual master because I always had his instructions to go to Western world and preach this message of Lord Chaitanya in English language. And second was, whenever you get money, print books. So in this way, Lord instructed Uddhava so that he can go and associate with Nana and Rishi and not be affected by this age of Kali. But what happened is, Uddhava couldn't follow Lord's instruction to immediately go. So he was just following the Lord. That's why something which is condemned in the material realm is glorified in the spiritual realm. So generally in the material realm, somebody doesn't follow the instruction of spiritual master, he is condemned. But when there is love, then all rules and regulations are surpassed. So what happened for him is, like Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda was instructed by Lord Chaitanya that stay in Bengal and preach in Bengal. Because devotees would take 1 month to go, 1 month to come. It is like almost 2 months. And 4 months they would stay in with Lord Chaitanya and Puri. That means 6 months working and 6 months just with devotees and Lord Chaitanya. So then how will you do any preaching? 6 months no preaching means preaching programs will collapse. So Lord Chaitanya told that next year onwards, Lord Nityananda, you don't have to come back to Puri. Lord Nityananda ignored his instruction and still came. And Lord Chaitanya was happy. So when there is love, then it surpasses all the instructions. So that's why Uddhava couldn't follow Lord's instruction of immediately going to Bhadraka ashram, and he was following the Lord. Yes, please read 6, 7, and 8. I think 8 has a purport also. No. Okay. 6, 7, 8. Please read 6, 7, 8. Yes, who is next?
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thus following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture.
So please give me a minute. I wanted to show this photograph. How Lord looked. Let us see if I have it. Somehow I'm not able to find it. I found it. Good. So this is exactly how Krishna was looking. So all details are given very vividly in this our Krishna art book painting. So is Uddhava here? Then Maitra Muni is there behind him, who overheard the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava. And Krishna sitting under a banyan tree with his forearms, holding Sangha Chakra Gada Padma in the forearms, wearing a yellow silk garment, and he was putting his right leg on his left thigh. So he was sitting like that. So exactly all details are given here. And he was sitting with his back to a small banyan tree. So that is how Uddhav got the darshan of Lord Krishna, which is mentioned in this verse. Okay. So same thing mentioned. So Lord's body is blackish, eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. His eyes were peaceful, as if nothing has happened, although entire dynasty was gone. Eyes were reddish like rising moon, or rising sun, rising sun. He had 4 hands with Sangha Chakra Gada Padma symbolic representation. He was wearing pitambari. He was taking rest against a young banyan tree, and his right lotus foot over there on the left thigh. So he was looking very cheerful in that posture, while leaving all household comforts. So Amaran Hari Prabhu is excited to see Krishna in that way. Yes. So please read 9th and 10th, verse and translation. Sir, and purport. Translation and purport.
Verse 9. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher, the great sage Krishna Davai Payanu Vyasa, reached that spot of his own perfect text 10. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him. He was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest. The Lord spoke as follows. Although both Uddhav and Maitreya were great souls, Lord's attention was more on Uddhav because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. The Sana Bhakta, one whose devotion is mixed with the monistic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love, on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for mystic knowledge or fruitive activities. Gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus they became their heart and soul. And the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. But Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme, wherein the Lord's attitude towards Uddhav was more intimate than with Maitreya Muni.
So Maitra Muni, by Krishna's arrangement, came there because Maitra Muni was supposed to speak the same conversation to Vidura. So Lord arranged in that way. But Lord was speaking to Uddhava, not to Maitreya, Because Uddhava is a pure devotee, whereas Maitreya Muni is Jnana Mishra Bhakta. Somebody remembers what does Krishna speak out Jnana Mishra Bhakta in Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 7? Okay. Bhakti Shastri students have forgotten Bhakti Shastri. So Krishna speaks. So out of these 4 type of people, Artho, Artati, Jigyasu, Jnani, there is Jnana Mishra Bhakta. So Lord speaks that he is as good as myself. I love a Jnana Mishra Bhakta as I love myself. And then Arjuna says, how long does he take to come to you? Bahunam Jamanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudev Sarvamati Samatma Sudurlabha. So after many, many lifetimes, he understands Vasudeva is everything, and then he comes to me. So even he takes a lot of time to come to Krishna. But as far as pure devotee is concerned, what Lord says, I love him more than myself. So Jnana Mishra Bhakta, Lord loves as good as himself, but Suddha Bhakta, Lord loves more than himself. Sadhavo hridayam mayyam, sadhunam hridayam tuham, mad annat tena jananti naham tibu manadu. So sadhus remain in my heart, pure devotees. I don't know anyone else than them, they don't know anyone else than me. So like pure devotees love Krishna more than themselves, they have no selfish agenda at all, they don't even care to get liberated. So Lord also loves them more than themselves, himself. So Lord loves pure devotees even more than himself. That's why offense in the lotus feet of pure devotee is more dangerous than offense to Krishna himself. So Uddhava was that pure devotee, and Lord loved him so much. So he was talking to only to Uddhava. Let us see how many is there. 11th is a big one. 12, 13. Okay, so can we continue to 13? So you can read both 11th verse, translation purport, and 12:30. Whoever is the next, and then we'll end.
Hare Krishna.
Hmm.
O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I award it unto you. Purport. Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of yore. The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed the sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals in life. At the time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because He is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the super consciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the super consciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity as partial consciousness forgets incidents of his past life, but the super consciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam statheva bhajam yaham. Bhagavad Gita 4.11. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto mattah smritir Jnanamapohanam cha 15:15 Bhagavad Gita. Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man purposes, God disposes. In the days of yore, when the demigods and Vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava, as one of the Vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy in empiric philosophical speculation or fruitive activities. Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know by the mercy of the Lord that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitra finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. Text 12. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode Vaikuntha by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place because of your pure and unflinching devotional service is a great boon for you. Text 13. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hari Hari. So Lord told to Uddhava that as a Vasu, you desire to have an eternal association. So is one of the expansion of eternal Uddhava was a Vasu in the heavenly planets. So Lord said that now you have perfected your life, you got my favor, and you will go to the spiritual realm and become my eternal associate. Only one service remaining, which Krishna will speak after that. So that we'll discuss in the next class. And we'll end here now. नंतरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्रील प्रभुपाद की वाचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण।